On.
Yeah. All right, we're live. So the phone is off, the makeup is live. This is what happens when you get two women into a studio, trying to figure out what's going on. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Funnels and Follow-Up Show, where we talk to business owners, we talk to coaches, authors, speakers, just amazing people who are going to help you, work with you on this show to talk about funnels. And I don't ever mean to create that software package funnel, the Karters and Infusionsofts and ClickFunnels of the world. That's not what this show is about. This show is about attracting the people into the funnel, which is so important, right, Jackie?
Well, attracting is the most important part. Yeah. It does you no good to have a funnel if people can't find it.
Right. So we're doing some tips and tricks and ideas for you to get the funnel. And then once they are in your world, once they are following you and reading what you're writing and listening to your podcast and all of those things, you need to keep following up with them. You need to capture information. You need to follow up with them. And that's also what we talk about on the show. But today we're going to talk a little bit about funnels. I have my very dear friend, we're in a mastermind together. She is amazing, helpful, wonderful. Jackie Simmons. Jackie is an author. She's a TEDx speaker, a radio show host, and she's a business coach. She is the founder of the Make It a Great Day movement. And this is like so wildly important. Jackie is the founder of the Teen Suicide Prevention Society. So Jackie, welcome to the show. Thank you for being on. Thank you for all your patience as I tried to figure out how to use all my different pieces and everything.
Yeah, it's what makes us human, and being human is a huge part of the equation nowadays.
It is. Yeah, it is. So I know we want to talk a little bit about what is the one thing that's working for attracting new clients and partners. What's working there? And well, let's start with that, because then I have a follow-up question, but I have a tendency of getting ahead of myself. Can't imagine why.
So okay. There are two groups of people in my world. Okay, they're all on this one spectrum, and I tend to attract extremes because I am one. Yeah, I know. What you say?
You're only allowed to laugh when you work with somebody and you hang out with them like a lot, and that's when you can giggle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. No, because when you get to know, like, and trust yourself, and you get to know how you respond, it's easier to attract partners. So I'm going to talk about partners first, and then about prospects. When I realized that we don't attract opposites because of magnetism in a way that most people think of, we attract opposites if we're lucky because they balance us.
Right.
So my decision-making style is, if this is the middle where it's perfect amount of information, perfect amount of time is where decisions get made. I'm a little more intuitive. I move a little faster. I'm a little more gut. You get 4 steps down and you've got the Microsoft School of Business. You launch the product, let the consumer tell you what's wrong with it.
Right, exactly.
At the extreme, so good at that. Yeah, they are. So at the extreme of that is ready, fire, aim. And that's how I live. Okay, this is when people say, someone who is in action, it's massively perfect action. How do we know it's perfect? It's what I did, and you can't do it wrong. So that's the world according to Jackie in a nutshell. Now, my guy Mark, he's on the other side. He needs to have a little more information, needs to research it, needs to sleep on it, needs to think about it. You get all the way down to the end of this one, and you've got analysis paralysis, and nothing gets decided. And without a decision, you can't take action because there are too many options. So
absolutely. And I have to say there is too much analysis paralysis going on in the world today. There's too much thinking about it and wondering about it and ruminating over it and wait, the pencils are not exactly perfect on my desk. My business card isn't perfect. Now we go into, what your business card should look like, what it shouldn't look like, anything like that. But don't not do something because you don't have a perfect business card. Use the crap business card that you have, and then, and then review it.
Networking ninja trick.
Yes.
Leave your cards at home. No one wants them, even if they're perfect. They want connection, not cards.
This is true.
It's better to leave the card at home and say, let me get back to you with it. Let's meet up for coffee. Better, in this case, it really is better to receive than to give.
Absolutely.
So that's just that one opening, and it was like, ninja trick. Okay. The beauty of being in action is that you get feedback. And then you can course correct. You can make changes. But I have a client. She says, I have 2 China eggs. And I went, oh, this is not good. Do you know what a China egg is? In the networking prospect sales world, a China egg is that perfect prospect.
Yep.
And you put them on the little pedestal and you dust them and you gaze at them, and they are just so wonderful. And as long as you don't interact with them, what do they stay? The perfect prospect.
Yeah.
So you can have the perfect prospect, but that's the opposite of a funnel.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of letting someone come on this journey to get to know, like, and trust you, which is the one thing that has to occur for them to decide to invest with you, which is the whole point of being in business.
Absolutely.
By the way, you're not in business to make money. You're not in business. You're doing something called a hobby. It's not even a nonprofit, because nonprofits have to cash flow more steadily than businesses do. How do I know? I now own a nonprofit. Trust me. I've had an education.
Yes.
So the perfect partner is going to be the one who balances you, and the perfect prospect is also going to be the one who balances you. What I'm seeing happen more and more, and this is not going to be mainstream conversation.
Okay.
I'm seeing.
I don't like mainstream. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how my client is going to balance me, how their clients are going to balance them. We always want to talk about something a little different. So
this is going to be a little different, because the prevailing wisdom is that you want to speak in the language of your ideal client. And so all your copy, everything you write. And that is true at the surface, very surface level.
Okay.
You get one step into that funnel, you better be speaking with your own authentic voice, attitudes, and vocabulary, because they're going to know, and they are going to leave. So that very top layer, absolutely go learn a new dialect, maybe even a new language if that's where your target market is. But make sure you're really comfortable with that language, because you're going to be speaking it a lot. But the one step into that funnel, your authentic voice has to show up. We don't show up authentically at that stage of the funnel most of the time, which is the problem with most marketing that I see. And I love getting to review other people's stuff. I'm known as the tagline queen, because I will take the 4 paragraphs of convoluted complications and turn it into something that's clear, concise, and compelling in their voice. It has to be in your voice.
Okay, so I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, because I, of course, advocate that you speak in your client's language. And I don't ever say, don't be authentic to yourself. What do you think the happy medium is? Because I feel like if your client is well educated, you should speak well educated. And if you can't, maybe that's not your right client. What's your opinion of that?
Well, there's an assumption built in there.
Okay.
And the assumption is that they want you to sound like them. But what if they're looking to change? They're not going to want to work with someone who sounds like them, because they're not going to believe that you can help them become different.
Okay, I see the point. I like the point. I see the point. I definitely like the point and see the point. Yeah, no, that's absolutely that's absolutely right. And I also believe if your client speaks French, don't come at them in Spanish. Come at them in French.
Top level of the funnel, you come at them in their language.
Okay.
Absolutely, in their language is the top level of the funnel. Why? Because they have to be able to understand what you're saying.
Exactly.
So You're right. If they're using polysyllabic, pardon my pun, but if they're using words that have a lot of syllables in them, I know you like big words. And it's not pronounced that way, but that's the way I pronounce it because it's the way I can spell it. Anyway, if they use big words, it's okay to pull out your big word vocabulary. However, if those big words are subject to interpretation, you might be entering a level of confusion into a conversation that does not need to be there.
Yeah.
Complexity is one of the Achilles heels for people who are really, really masterful in their lane.
Yeah.
They will just assume that everyone can see all the complexity that they can see and that they're comfortable with the complexity. And so realize that I'm not saying disregard how your client or prospect views the world or speaks. What I'm saying is don't get so caught up in their language that you lose yours. And I'm seeing that happen as there are more and more gurus. People are following more and more people. They are using other people's scripts. And I'm not talking about modeling after a framework, but actually there are those who are selling their scripts and saying, here, just do this.
Yeah, just say this. And it doesn't work. No, absolutely, that does not work.
Even if it's the ideal language of my prospect, the sentence structure will be off. And it's one thing that we don't talk about. We talk about the words, we talk about the vocabulary, but we don't talk about the way those words are hooked together. And each person creates a unique chain. And the people who can follow your chain, no matter what the words are your ideal prospects.
Excellent.
Most communication is not word-based. It's the cadence. It's the way things are organized. It's whether or not your thoughts are organized in a straight line where you go from here to here to here, or are they organized like a beehive? And then you want someone who is a hive type person. Your ideal client is not one you have to work hard to communicate with.
That's very true. It reminds me of my all-time favorite movie is Princess Bride.
Oh, I know that one.
And at one point, Mandy Patinkin, the character Mandy Patinkin plays, turns to one of the other guys who, and for the life of me now, I cannot remember the one word that he keeps saying. And Mandy Patinkin turns to him and looks and he says, I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Inconceivable.
Yes, I couldn't think of it. Inconceivable. I don't think that word means what you think it means. And it's true, because then all of a sudden your brain goes back through the movie and you're like, okay, it fits here. It doesn't fit here. It fits here. It doesn't fit here. But the way they played it and, through the movie, it's like, okay. And it didn't hit me until Mandy Patinkin said, I don't think that means what you think it means. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't. Later on, I came to realize that that's a pattern interrupt in the speaking to make you stop and think and go, wait a minute. Wait, what just happened here? So yeah, I absolutely agree. It's the cadence. It's the way you say something. It's the inflection. It's all of those things. It's not just big words, little words. It's so important. So important to to communicating with your clients and your prospects. Keep communicating in an authentic way. Once the prospect becomes a client, because once you have a client, that's the follow-up part of the funnels and follow-up.
Yeah.
And
you kind of skipped over the transformational part.
right. Okay. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. The transformational part. The transformation is when you get somebody who goes from a caterpillar to a butterfly. They go from being a prospect to a client. Something has to transform there in the relationship.
Yes.
At that point, there's a different exchange of energy, a different exchange of value.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where that whole thing gets inverted again. So you start out, in my world, you start out learning their language, speaking to them in their language, letting them hear themselves in your words.
Right.
And then bringing them down the funnel is also bringing them into your world and bringing them into your cadence and the way that you relate and the way that the world looks to you. And at that moment of transformation, then you're going right back into how they view the world, how their language plays out. Why? Because that's when you're working with them at the fastest way to transform them. It just completely flips in that moment. What I see people doing is their language, their language, their language. Oh, now they're a client. My language, my way or the highway.
Right. Okay.
And then they wonder why they don't have loyal clients. So that's the world according to Jackie. This is how it works.
Okay.
Like more like an hourglass. And so the transformation from taking someone through that point, and we know each other from the mastermind.
Yes.
I've never heard it said better than our mentor, Iman, because he says they don't buy what I sell. He really tells me this a lot. They do not buy what I sell, and they don't buy what you sell if you're listening to this. No one buys what you do. What they buy is what you believe. They buy into your vision of who they will become and what they will achieve going through this transformative work with you. So the only transformation that has to take place for them to go from being prospect to client is they have to trust you enough that you actually believe in them and the vision that they have created with you. Because you don't give somebody their vision. No. You have to listen for their vision. They will tell you if you're willing to listen, which is why a lot of the training I do with people is on how to actually listen in a way, not that you get what they're saying, but in a way that the other person believes they've been heard.
Right. Right.
It's an external experience. You cannot control it.
Right. And you know, it happens so often in communication in general. You understand what the other person is saying. I mean, relationships, for example, you understand what the other person is saying. You get what the other person is saying. Some of the time it's that you're not communicating that you truly get what they're saying, that you truly understand them so that they can say, okay, you have my vision and now we can travel together to the place that I want to go. Your client will always tell you their problem. They might not just come out and say, oh, my problem is this, but they will always tell you their problem. There are problems that your clients have that you solve better than anyone else on the planet. And what you need to do is make sure that you listen for one of the problems that you solve better than anybody else. And it's not, you've heard me say this a bazillion times. You don't do anything and everything. You don't solve every problem. And for flipping sake, you are not a jack of all trades. You solve a particular problem for your client. And when they really truly get that you will solve that problem for them in a way that makes them feel better, makes their world better, oh my God, it's golden. I mean, it's absolutely golden.
Here's what I believe to be true. And this is that to get to the gold, you got to be willing to give up the silver. And this means that you go ahead and solve the first problem that you can solve quickly, easily, get it done. Don't make them think that that's their big problem because they know better. They're bringing you the silver first. You go ahead and solve that. then they are more likely, again, it comes back to the big T, it comes back to trust. And it's a massive place of confusion. People think if I spend enough time with you, if we exchange enough treasure, transformation is going to happen. And the answer is no. Transformation only occurs in the space of trust. It does not occur no matter how much time, no matter how talented you are, or how much treasure they throw at you. It doesn't occur unless the trust is there.
And for those who are listening that are not coaches or speakers, because there's a lot of the people that Jackie and I surround ourselves with, the transformation, the trust can happen quickly. Mm-hmm. The trust can take a long time. What is it? What is your product or service? And what is the problem that you solve? I mean, if you're a gas station and my tank is on empty, I don't have to build a whole lot of trust with you, except to know gas is about whatever it is. It's about $2.50. So, if you're $2.40, $2.60, I'm good.
Or you're the only station open.
Where I live, there is a station on the way to the airport, which is the weirdest thing because it's not the way to return the rental cars. So you would think it would be a higher price to return the rental cars. There's a station on the way. It's in the middle of nowhere, really, not on the way to return rental cars. And yet they are 50 to 75 cents a gallon more expensive. Why would you do that? And yet people use them, probably not as much as they would like.
Everybody's got their own business model. I don't mind being the higher priced option as long as I'm delivering the value that people want.
Exactly.
So the one thing I don't want to be is price shopped.
No.
Yeah. And so there is a sweet spot that makes it easy for people to say yes, that makes the know, like, and trust factor shorter.
Right.
And it just makes it easy, which is, hey, if you can let me put it to you this way. If you're going to promise to make your client's life easier and their process to become your client is difficult, you have a disconnect going on and they're not going to buy from you.
Yep.
Because you're demonstrating the opposite of what you're promising. Now, granted, I deliver with my clients. I can deliver transformation with my clients. They do things that I've never done. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about this one place where you can be introducing unintentional, complexity that doesn't need to be there. So Mark likes complexity. I like straight lines. You got to know who you're talking to as well. So, and we'll go back to the beginning. When you're talking about the top of the funnel, knowing who you're talking to, and that includes, do they use language that's more visual? Do they use language that's more auditory? Do they use language that's more kinesthetic, more touchy-feely? Because that's a key piece, especially in this day and age where the people who are kinesthetic are harder to reach. They are more disconnected and more isolated because they don't have, you can't hand them a tangible card as easily. Though you can pop it in the mail, and I will tell you what, you can pop a lot of cards in the mail at 50 cents. That is, if we used to go to a networking event and spend $30 to get in the door, that's 60 cards I could put in the mail right now for the people who do use the tangible, concrete language.
Absolutely. And there's a whole lot out there on different languages and the way people speak. And you can talk about, I know DISC is one of them. I know the intromercial and intromercial core. Core is one of the ways of figuring out if somebody speaks faster or slower. Are they more touchy-feely, or are they more organized? So you've got to, in your words, you've got to
slide on that spectrum. Yeah.
Slide on that spectrum. And do they say things like, I hear what you're saying, or do they say things like, I can see that. Because it's two extremely different languages. And then the trick is, but it's got to be authentic from you.
Matching, mirroring, resonance, all of these skills are learnable. The one that is not learnable from an outside source usually is, what's your style? What's your style? Can you authentically say, this is me and this is not me?
Yeah.
This is my language. This is not my language. And this is the journey that if you take it for yourself first, if you get to know, like, and trust yourself first so that you are so solid, nothing's going to knock you off. Then matching, mirroring, using other people's language works like a dream because you don't lose yourself in the process.
Absolutely.
That's why I caution people against staying in other people's language, because most of us did not go on the journey with ourselves first. So that's the gift I have for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know I'm gonna show the banner now.
Ooh, there you go. Look at that.
Can'tdowit.com. And Jackie, tell us a little bit about the free gift.
The fastest path to go from where you are to where you want to be with taking a client conversation, taking a journey, bringing someone on the journey through your funnel is this assessment. It's called the Know, Like, and Trust Factor Assessment, KLT, Factor for short. And this is a Success Journey Academy exclusive that was actually written for the Make It a Great Day movement. That's who it was created for. This is the let's stop all the self-sabotage. We call suicide the ultimate form of self-sabotage in my world. So it's all self-sabotage. They are just on that end of the extreme. This is what I call a cure. This is how you become suicide proof. And the value of it is that you not only become suicide and self-sabotage proof, that's on one side, you become immediately more attractive to other people. Immediately. Because we want to be in the presence of people who like themselves. We want to be in the presence of people who know themselves, not just their product or service, not just their spiel, not just the tech, the tangible, the talent piece of it, but actually who you are.
Absolutely.
And this one has the trust factor inside it. This is the piece that's missing in most trainings. The only reason I know is because I took most trainings. At least that's what it felt like. I chased certifications the way some people collect vinyl records. And the value of the journey is that I could spot what was missing. Eventually, I realized that they were all missing this one key element that just takes the journey of the funnel and shortcuts it. It just like you said, if you're going to go in and buy gas, it's a very short journey.
Right.
Because everyone knows what the outcome of having gasoline is, and everyone knows what the outcome of not having gasoline is.
Exactly.
When you can know, like, and trust yourself, your product, your service, I call it becoming an advocate for yourself. When you can do that, you can explain it to anyone you're talking to in a way that makes it as simple a decision as putting gas in the car.
Right. Because oftentimes someone needs our product or service.
Mm-hmm.
They know they need our product or service. They are in search of a source for the product or service that they know they need.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they won't buy from you. And when that happens, you stop looking at the prospect. Stop saying, "Oh, what an idiot. Ugh, they don't know what they need." Ugh, and I grew up in retail, which is why I don't do retail anymore, but I grew up in retail. And yeah.
First rule of retail is at some point you get out of retail.
At some point you get out of retail, right? So the automatic reaction, and then so my parents had a shoe store. All my audience knows that. ad nauseum. And then later on in college, I worked in different retail places, including a very high-end children's boutique on the Upper East Side in Manhattan. And without fail, person would come in, do the walk out. And whether you're alone in the store or whether you're with the other associates in the store, you go, what the hell is wrong with that person? What were they looking for? I mean, we've got everything. What the hell is wrong with that person? Could be your presentation. Could be your product. It wasn't exactly what they needed. Could be your presentation. Could be that you didn't speak their language. Could be any number of things. The last thing it is, the very last thing it is your prospect. Very last.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we talk about it and we joke about it, and they sang about it in the Rodgers and Hammerstein version of Cinderella. The stepsisters lament. Oh, why would a fellow like a girl like her, a girl who's merely lovely? Why can't a fellow only once prefer a girl who's merely me? What's the matter with the man? Yeah. And they go through this whole thing about what's the matter with the man. And then they start picking apart Cinderella. They don't know it's Cinderella, of course, but they start picking apart the lady he's dancing with. Yeah. And it's never us. It's always the other person. And that's the never always combination that keeps us broke. When you're willing to come out of those absolutes, never and always, allow a little crack to be in the space, then you can start exploring. But I'll tell you what, that exploration is dangerous, and it can be painful, and it will be avoided at all costs if you're not in solid KLT. If your know, like, and trust factor is not solid, you will avoid introspection. You will avoid reexamination. You will avoid looking at feedback that's been given to you, and you will not ask for any feedback.
Right.
And all of that reverses as soon as you know, like, and trust yourself just a little more.
Yep.
So that's why this is my gift to you, because anyone can take this assessment. You spend 10 minutes with it, and then you do the homework with it. It's the fastest path because it uses the one thing that affects change in the subconscious mind effectively. There's only one thing that does that. Your subconscious mind cannot argue with your direct experience. It's the only thing it can't argue with. So the know, like, and trust factor assessment is based on you pulling up those experiences that will push, nudge, take your unconscious elephant, the elephant in the room is what I call this guy.
Right.
And just turn them so you can ride them in a new, more profitable direction. What that looks like is you will attract more people to the top of your funnel. They will stay with you as they get to hear your authentic voice. They will get to know, like, and trust you, just like we used to spend time with our friends. But it doesn't take as much time when they sense from the beginning that you're trustworthy.
Yeah. Yep. And, a lot has to be said about your authentic self. And I think I'm a great example of it. Because when I speak to friends or family that don't have their own businesses, that are working for somebody that don't quite get my style is very direct. My style is very blunt. This is who I am. This is my style. And it actually came up last week in a conversation with a friend. Do you really talk to your clients like that? Do you really present yourself like that? Yep. Because if you can't if you can't handle the truth, if you can't handle the truth according to Kat. Right, exactly. If you can't handle where I'm going to come from working with you, please don't waste your time and money working with me. Same thing with Jackie. if you cannot handle, I've known you for a while, Jackie.
Right.
But if you cannot handle that sort of coaching, that sort of personality, move along. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with Jackie. It just means that you're not compatible. Same thing with your clients.
I'm going to go true confession on people.
Sure.
Okay? I'm not a coach. I am a consultant. Oh, by the way, I'm not a coach because I predate the coaching industry. I've been at this longer than they had certifications for it.
Since birth.
Near about. It happens when you're the youngest child in a military family. You learn some skills along the way. Yeah. Yeah, I'm the youngest of 4 girls. You learn some skills along the way. And the value of this is that now I can say to you, my clients call me their coach. I used to correct them. Now I have discovered there is something called corrective complex, and I've gotten over it. And so the value of you being able to speak it up in your own voice, to handle your own style, because there are a lot of people who have really good, solid methodologies in the coaching world that they just work with you knowing that all of the answers are inside of you, and they are the right fit for the majority of people.
Yes.
Not me, because I do not have the patience. So I spot the elephant in the room. That's my gift.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into a relationship with someone where my gift is not the right method for them, because it's just not a match. I am not, my God, Mr. Analysis Paralysis over here. I am not the right person to help that man change. We discovered that early on in our relationship. Let me tell you the drama that came down, because I just absolutely said, I will accept you exactly as you are. Why? Because I wanted to be with him, and that wasn't going to happen if I tried to change him.
Okay.
So just FYI, I have friends, Lord knows they could use some coaching. Anybody other than me. I'm not the right fit for my friends. Why? My friends are like my guy. My friends are the opposite of me. They balance me. Their job is not to mirror me. Their job is to balance me, to give me some contrast.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to go where angels fear to tread. See, I had a mentor early on who said, Jackie, I'm doing this new class. Now, I was about to pony up for her big class, but I got the notice. I'm doing this new class. It's a beta. It's this price. And I'm like, I'm in. And then I let her know that she saved me from ponying up the big money by doing this beta. Yeah. Beta for me is best every time, always, to work with.
Go for the beta. Go for the beta.
Into the beta. She did a spectrum. The common wisdom that if you look at the 5 people that you are around the most, you can pretty much accurately predict what your income is going to be for the next year.
Okay.
Now, she says that's true if and only if you're on the similarity end of the spectrum, where your brilliance shows up when you are around people who you are similar to. Okay. This is also my guy. He does really, really well when he's with his tribe. Okay. Now, doesn't mean he doesn't like novelty. He's the poster child for ADD, but but he thrives with the tribe, with his tribe, with his community. When I got my assessment back from her on a scale of 1 to 100, on the contrast end, I was over, boom, on this end. What did that tell me about myself? My brilliance shows up when I'm around people who I'm in high contrast with.
Okay.
And so that's why I say my clients balance me. I will attract the ones that will balance me. But if you're high on that similarity scale, your clients might look a lot like you. They might have a similar cadence in how they speak. So there's not a hard and fast rule here, which is why the know, like, and trust factor is up on a website. You can't do it wrong, because you cannot be wrong. There it is. Ta-da, magic.
Magic.
You can't be wrong, guys.
No.
So do you Do you the best you can do, and find out who you are so that other people know that you know who you are. Nothing's more attractive than that.
Nothing's more attractive than your authentic self. So that's super important, everyone. Nothing is more attractive than your authentic self. Yeah. All that being said, and I hope you all were taking notes out there in podcast and live in YouTube land. Jackie, I want to speak a few minutes about your passion project, which is so important. I would love for you to tell our audience what it is, how they can participate. Talk. I don't even have the words because it is so important.
If I'm one-on-one with someone and they ask me what I do, I ask them, have you heard about the number of parents who are totally clueless that their child's on the verge of killing themselves? And people go,
I'm sorry, what? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is the conversation that I must have with people. This is the silence that I must break. Why? Because I learned the hard way that silence is deadly on this topic. And here's people say, Jackie, who's your target market? Because I teach people to be advocates, better advocates for themselves so they can be better advocates for other people. Why? You suicide proof yourself if you become an advocate for yourself. And then you can help other people become suicide proof. Why is this important? Because last fall, the statistic was 3,000 a day. 3,000 a day. That's the number of teens, just in the US. That's the number of teens who attempt to take their own lives every day. And that was a wave we wanted to get ahead of. So we want to reach the kids who are normal. They're happy. They're sometimes grumpy and they're sometimes bored. These are the normal kids, the ones who one day they take their own lives and everybody goes, what was that about? Everything was perfect in their life. And the answer is no, it wasn't. They didn't have anyone they could talk to about what wasn't perfect. So they got caught up in what I call the negative echo chamber. Oh my God, it took me months before I would do the math. Getting ahead of the wave, stemming the tide, ending the suicide epidemic, especially among our teens, was the goal. And then COVID hit. And now we're not looking at a wave. Now we're looking at a tsunami. And they talk about it a little more on the news. You can hear them say something about it on the radio. But nobody's talking about how do you prevent it. They know how to intervene. They know what to do if there are signs. There's an 800 number, 800-273-8255. It is 800-273-8255. I give this number to everyone I meet and say, save it in your phone under help. Why? It's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline in the United States. Find out where it is in yours. Keep it handy because you may need it one day for yourself or for someone else. They're anonymous. They're free. We've got lots of anonymous and free interventions once someone is identified or self-identified as being at risk. But that's a tiny sliver of the population.
Sadly, it is.
The vast majority of suicide attempts, the first sign they're in trouble is the attempt. So now that you know there are no signs, if you're not scared, let me give you another piece of information. A group of us got together and wrote a book called Make It a Great Day. The choice is yours. These are stories that are real, raw, relatable, and relevant to the conversation. It was a tool to help teens break the silence and start conversations. So I do what you do, right? I'm a business person. We market test. I get into the local high school, talking with the teens, telling them about the project, about the why, about my daughter's story, because I am the mother of a teen suicide attempt survivor. And then I started asking them, what's your story? Do you have a friend who's tried or died? And it started just going around the room. And it was one. And then it was another. The young woman who said, I lost my first friend to suicide when I was in elementary school and my second friend last year. The stories were short. They were concise. They were so compelling that I almost missed it. It wasn't until I had left and left behind a bunch of the books, because we had people who sponsored books for teens. I was at my car and I got it. It wasn't some of the kids in the room. It wasn't most of the kids in the room. It was every kid in the room had a story. And if you try to talk to teens about suicide, coming at it from an adult perspective, they're just going to tell you it's a thing. Suicide has become a thing among our teenagers. We're out to make it a thing of the past. That is our model. That is our mantra. We've got a summit of our own coming up just on suicide prevention, which is going to be a lot of fun. Why? Because suicide is certainly serious, but suicide prevention, that's seriously fun.
Okay.
Seriously fun, people. We've got brain retraining. We've got some of the best neuro gamification techniques on how do you get more emotional resilience and emotional intelligence using games. We've got some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, including the man who basically invented reality TV in Australia.
Wow.
On to share their story. Why? Because there is no stigma in survival.
No.
There's no stigma in survival if you are willing to talk about it. Okay. The unwillingness to talk about suicide has now been identified by the Center for Disease Control as a risk factor in and of itself.
Yep.
So we will make everybody a better advocate for themselves simply by giving them a space to break the silence. So all of the experts are available already. They're interacting with the VIPs in a Facebook group. It's just a conversation, but it's a conversation that saves lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love this passion project. Please, if you're, if you're listening to the podcast in your car, the number is 800-273-8255. Don't write it down because then you're just getting into an accident. But all you have to do is type in suicide in Google and the 800 number will come up. Absolutely comes up first thing. It is your passion project and you have, like incredible passion for it and it is needed. And, think about your teenage years, however old you are listening to this show, think about your teenage years. They were not all sunshine and roses. There was a lot of despair. There was a lot of hopeless feelings,
but we didn't get stuck in them as much. And that's what we've advanced into. We've advanced into a place of isolation.
That's the problem.
This is before COVID. And what most people think the problem is screen time. And I'm going to tell you, it's not what they're doing that's the problem. It's not what we're doing. It's what we're not doing. What we're not doing is having conversation. Having multi-generational conversation, having large family conversation where kids could absorb through their skin that you could have a difference of opinion without it dissolving a relationship. Now it's instant.
Yeah. You can't have a difference of opinion on Facebook. You can't, can't.
You can unfriend someone.
Right.
I heard it today. I was like, no, they have taken this, what used to be considered self-murder. Okay. There was a stigma against it. Suicide and self-murder both came into the lexicon of human vocabulary in the 1600s. It was a crime. It was not just a sin. It was a legal crime. all of these stigmas, all of these injunctions against it. We have lost them. We have lost them to the point now that I heard someone refer to suicide today as self-deleting, like you could push a button on the computer.
Oh my gosh.
This is what the equation has come down to. And if you want to know why suicides are up across the board, across all ages, across all demographics, it is because we've lost the connection to what it means to be human in a community through conversation.
Community is huge.
Now we have communities that, all right, here's the other problem. I'm going to just name it. When I give my talks, the last indicator that you or someone you love may be at risk for suicide is if you know someone who's tried or died. And thanks to media, we all know someone. We all know a celebrity chef, a talented singer, a gifted comedian. When celebrities started self-selecting out, they gave tacit permission for everyone around them to do the same, because that's what they've discovered is one of the leading indicators that you're at risk is if you know someone. Why? Because your brain will not argue with that experience that you've had secondhand. Now your brain knows it's a possibility.
It's a way out.
There's a really good book written, and the title is Stay. And it's all of this history, all of the philosophies around suicide and why it's going up, where we've lost our resistance to the concept. And we need you to stay. So if you're listening to this, reach out to the 800 number. It's anonymous. Why? We are so much more likely to talk to a stranger than we are to talk to somebody who possibly knows the players in our pain.
Right.
So
we absolutely
go there first. Go there first, everybody. And then if all you need is somebody to think this through, if you're really into self-help, why not workbook.com? This was the first intervention tool of the Make It a Great Day movement. It's simple. Why not workbook.com? And this is the place to go. If you've got a question about how your brain really works, you can go there and find out. But it also has an exercise that is a pattern interrupt for the negative echo chamber in your brain.
That's huge. That's huge.
And it's effective and it's free, and go get it. Okay.
So Jackie, you've given us so much first on your business side and building your business and a totally different way of looking at things.
Yeah, that's me.
Absolutely. And, your passion, what should be the passion of so many of us, all of us, the fact that this is a problem. Teen suicide, adult suicide, it's a problem now with, as this is being recorded during the COVID crisis, it's going to be more and more of a problem. So the whynotworkbook.com, someplace to go.
Absolute intervention tool.
Yeah. So
and the know, like, and trust factor assessment is the prevention tool. So I got you guys. I got you covered on both ends. Why not workbook for intervention? You can't do it wrong for prevention.
Beautiful. So Jackie, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, for giving us your wisdom and for saving a couple of lives out there.
Saving lives is easy. All you have to be is willing to listen.
Yes, absolutely. And so with that, remember, we are live on Facebook and YouTube every Monday at 2 p.m. Arizona time. Figure that out for your time zone. We don't change times in Arizona. We're live at 2 p.m. That's right. 2 p.m. And then you can find us on all the podcast players, Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio. You can find us audio only on all the podcast players. Funnels and follow-up. Jackie, thank you so much for being on the show. Everyone, until next time, bye.